Yo, what's going on everybody? Numbskull here, and this video is going to be the next entry in my harm reduction series, where I speak directly to people who already use or are considering using drugs and give them the information they need to do so as safely as possible. This is going to be fulfilling this homie right here's request. Now, this series is not here to encourage or discourage use. It exists because people are going to make their own choices, and having accurate, honest information at hand saves lives. Today, we're talking about psilocybin mushrooms, also known as magic mushrooms, and while a lot of people see these as gentle or natural, that reputation causes people to underestimate the risks. Magic mushrooms primarily contain psilocybin, which is converted in the body into psilocin. Psilocin is the compound responsible for the psychedelic effects and works mainly by activating serotonin 5-HT2A receptors in the brain. This leads to altered perception, emotional amplification, changes in thought patterns, and shifts in sense of self. Psilocybin is not physically addictive and does not cause direct neurotoxicity, but that does not mean that it's harmless in all situations. One of the most important harm reduction points with mushrooms is dose variability. The potency of mushrooms can vary massively depending on species, strain, growing conditions, and even individual mushrooms from the same batch. A gram from one species can feel very different than a gram from another. Because of this, eyeballing doses or assuming consistency is one of the biggest risk factors. Knowing the potency of your strain and weighing your dose with a scale are always safer than just guessing and eyeballing it. A general harm reduction guideline for dried mushrooms is that, on average, low doses around 0.5 to 1 gram tend to produce mild perceptual and mood changes. Moderate doses, roughly 1.5 to 3 grams, can cause full psychedelic effects, including visual changes and emotional intensity. Higher doses, like 4 to 5 grams and beyond, increase the intensity of the experience tenfold, but also the likelihood of overwhelming experiences, confusion, anxiety, and a complete loss of grounding. Taking more does not just make the experience stronger, it makes it harder to manage. As with most substances, starting low and working up on separate occasions is far safer than jumping straight into a high dose. Another important factor is onset time. Mushrooms typically take 30 to 60 minutes to begin taking effect, sometimes shorter and sometimes longer if taken with food. Impatience is a common cause of accidentally overdoing it. Taking more before the first dose is fully kicked in can quickly turn a manageable experience into quite an overwhelming one. Redosing during the same session is rarely beneficial and often just increases nausea and mental discomfort without adding any more clarity. Set and setting are extremely important with mushrooms. Psilocybin strongly amplifies your internal emotional state and your external environment. Anxiety, stress, unresolved emotional issues, or chaotic surroundings can easily spiral into complete fear or panic. A calm, familiar setting, a stable mindset, and people you trust greatly reduce risk. Mushrooms are not something to take impulsively when you're already mentally struggling or in an unsafe environment. Mushrooms should not be mixed with certain substances. Similar to other psychedelics, combining psilocybin with certain other serotonergic drugs, including MAOIs, certain antidepressants, tramadol, DXM in some scenarios, or MDMA in some scenarios, can increase the risk of serotonin syndrome. While rare, serotonin syndrome is serious and potentially life-threatening. Mixing mushrooms with stimulants increases anxiety and cardiovascular strain, while combining them with alcohol often dulls the trip and awareness and increases the chance of nausea, confusion, or poor decision-making. Overall, not a very good time. People with certain mental health conditions should, of course, be especially cautious. Psilocybin can worsen anxiety disorders, panic disorder, bipolar disorder, and psychotic conditions. A personal or family history of schizophrenia or psychosis is a major risk factor. Mushrooms may not cause these disorders, but they most certainly can trigger symptoms in vulnerable individuals. If you're unsure, erring on the side of caution until you can be evaluated is always the safer bet. Physical safety does matter too. Mushrooms significantly alter perception, coordination, and judgment. Most physical harm related to mushrooms comes from accidents, not toxicity. Avoid driving, swimming, climbing, or interacting with dangerous objects. As per the usual, having a sober trip sitter, especially for first-time users or higher doses, dramatically reduces risk and can provide reassurance if things become too intense. Nausea is a common with mushrooms, and it's not usually dangerous, but vomiting while highly altered can be risky if you're lying flat. Staying upright or on your side reduces aspiration risk. Always make sure your sitter or someone nearby who knows what you're doing are aware of the recovery position, just in case. Some people find that having something tiny to eat beforehand or consuming mushrooms as a tea reduces stomach discomfort. Staying lightly hydrated helps, but avoid forcing fluids down your gullet just for the sake of doing so. Tolerance and frequency also matter here. Mushrooms produce rapid tolerance, much like other psychedelics, meaning using them again within a few days will produce weaker effects while still stressing the mind. Just because you don't feel them doesn't mean they aren't still doing something internally. Frequent use increases the risk of anxiety, emotional instability, and persistent perceptual changes. Spacing experiences out by weeks or longer allows proper mental integration and reduces harm. Now, as I mentioned in the LSD video, a rare but real risk associated with psychedelics is HPPD, or hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. This involves lingering visual disturbances after use, and it's most likely where all those old wives' tales of, oh, the acid will get stuck in your spine and, it'll come out randomly during church someday. No, that's not true, but HPPD is most certainly real. Risk increases with high doses, frequent use, and underlying anxiety, so avoiding excessive dosing and allowing long recovery periods significantly lowers that risk. Finally, it is important to know when something is not normal. Severe confusion that doesn't subside, uncontrollable panic, dangerous behavior, chest pain, or a persistent complete loss of awareness are not things to be ignored. If you or someone else needs help, getting assistance early is far safer than waiting. Medical professionals are there to help stabilize and protect you, not to judge you or unnecessarily involve law enforcement. To wrap this up, magic mushrooms can be meaningful, introspective, and even therapeutic for some people, but they demand the utmost respect. Most harm associated with mushrooms comes from unknown potency, excessive dosing, poor setting, dangerous mixing, and a lack of preparation. Weighing your doses, starting low, planning your environment, avoiding risky combinations, and allowing adequate recovery time are what make the difference between harm reduction and unnecessary risk. If you found this video helpful, a like and a subscribe or follow would always mean a lot and genuinely help the channel grow, and in turn, educate more individuals on how to stay safe. Turn on post notifications as well if you don't want to miss future entries in this series or otherwise, and consider sharing this with someone who could use the accurate information. Harm reduction needs to spread to work properly. Take care of each other, and as always, stay frosty, stay curious, and stay safe out there. And with that, I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace!